Upon its announcement, Crackdown 3 tried to stoke a lot of hype through big promises. As a Microsoft exclusive, it was also somewhat expected that the game would deliver for Microsoft in big ways, attracting more developers to make games for them. Crackdown 3 was originally announced in E3 2014 as an Xbox One exclusive title and was designed to take advantage of the Xbox One's cloud computing features. Fast forward to February 2019, and the end result is, by critical and fan consensus, highly lackluster. For Microsoft's portfolio, thankfully they've since acquired several development studios to develop games for them, as announced throughout last year. Nevertheless, considering the underwhelming response to Crackdown 3, we at GamingBolt are inclined to ask, what the hell happened with Crackdown 3? It must first be noted that Crackdown 3 suffered significant release delays. The game was first scheduled for release in 2016, but was then pushed back to early November 2017 to launch in conjunction with the Xbox One X. It was later pushed back to 2018, and by June of 2018, it was once again finally pushed back to its final release date of February 2019. The frequent delays should probably tell a tale of some sort of development process gone wrong. Indeed, there were notable development shakeups during the game's development. Dave Jones, the creator of the Crackdown series, left development of the game officially, at least by the time of June 2018. Jones, by the time of Crackdown 3's announcement, had founded CloudGen, a cloud computing software company. Their work was reportedly used as part of an early tech demo in 2014 for Crackdown 3. Another company that Dave Jones founded, named Reagent Games, was supposed to develop various game assets. Sumo Digital was initially tasked with developing the game's scenario mode, and Elbow Rocket and Ruffian Games would work on the game's multiplayer. At a Microsoft event in Gamescom 2015, Dave Jones endeavored to show off the power of combining cloud computing technology to surpass the power of what consoles can do on its own terms of processing power. And by accounts, it was impressive. This at a time when it seemed uncertain just what more could be done with consoles, visual output and processing power. But between Gamescom 2015 and E3 2018, Crackdown 3's destructible environments, its primary sales feature, would not be shown off, and by the time of E3 last year, Microsoft Studios was left to field questions about living up to the promise of cloud computing powered destruction back during the time of the game's announcement. What resulted were mostly dodgy answers to questions. Even CloudGen's involvement in the game was being significantly downplayed. You can probably guess why this might be the case. After having its second delay announced in August 2017, in January 2018 it was announced that CloudGen had been acquired by Epic Games, and Dave Jones himself would end up announcing that he'd begun working for Epic Games. Reagent Games, Jones's other company, is very likely defunct. There's no operational website, and its official Twitter account has been inactive for more than a year. In an interview with GamesIndustry.biz, published late in June of last year, Jones remarked that CloudGen and Reagent served more as facilitating roles in development as Sumo Digital, who were the main development arm for Crackdown 3. In essence, the departure of those two studios and his own departure was not supposed to have a lot of impact on the game's development, in accordance with his statements. This may serve to frame the degree to which Sumo Digital were more directly involved than Reagent Games or CloudGen. And what has arrived upon release doesn't in any way deliver on the promise of what the game was stated to be on the outset. In fact, the game is regularly chastised as a fun game, 1 decade late, as an illustration of how dated and underwhelming the gameplay experience is. Not to say that the game is wholly irredeemable and unfun, but to say that it's not as fun as it should be as a modern game, with as much investment and promotion as it was given, it significantly underdelivers, as if it were a game that changed little after the first Crackdown, which itself released in 2007. As the PC World article states, whose author played a demo in February prior to the full game's release, Crackdown 3 was going to be a game that showed off the power of cloud computing. The article refers to a quote back in the early stages of Crackdown 3's promotion from Microsoft's Phil Spencer, who talks about cloud computing processing the calculation of millions and millions of particles that would just fall, and then just having the console get the positional data and then render it. And as the author responds, by the next year, that dream was dead. He goes on to say that first-party games should be able to take risks, as they're also trying to sell hardware beyond just the game itself. But Crackdown 3 ends up being, by apparent consensus, and in spite of the time and money placed into it, rather safe, dull, almost derivative of other older games. It's a prime example of a game that survived development hell rather than being stuck in it, never actually seeing the light of day. That being said, Microsoft is pushing for updates to the game to solve gameplay issues due to bugs, offering a roadmap for the game's future on the official website's news page. It isn't as if games with poor launches haven't been turned around before, and it would seem that Microsoft is doing their best to salvage the Crackdown 3 that was launched into a game that fans can more fully play and appreciate, even if it won't end up living up to the game that it was stated to be at its announcement. It could also be the case that Microsoft has plans for the brand in the future. When Crackdown 3 was first announced, it was not meant to be known as Crackdown 3, but rather simply as Crackdown. The radio silence and lack of promotional events, and the substantial delays, severely depressed hype amongst anyone interested in Crackdown 3. The lack of gameplay demos likely raised questions in the minds of fans about the status of the game itself, and perhaps the departure of key staff should have been a major signal that something had gone terribly wrong with development. Did you play Crackdown 3, or are you a fan of the Crackdown games? Did you watch the initial tech demos for the game, and were you awaiting Crackdown 3 during its earliest promotional phases? Let us know what your thoughts are about the game, either then or now. What do you think of a fourth Crackdown game? Would you still want to see a fourth Crackdown game fully powered by cloud computing? And do you think Microsoft would be willing to push such a game, perhaps on the Xbox Scarlet? As always, thanks for watching.
And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily, so make sure you don't miss them by subscribing. We appreciate your support, and we thank you for checking us out.